Hello, everyone. My name is Bala Afshar, your co-host for this afternoon's show. I am also the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send your questions during DisrupTV using DisrupTV as the hashtag. Ray, myself, and our distinguished guests will do our best to respond to any questions that you have. I'd like to introduce Ray Wong, best-selling author of Digital Business Disruption, co-founder, CEO of Constellation Research, and one of the most social futurists on Twitter at rwang0, RWANG0. Hello, Ray.
Hey, Bala, how you doing? So this is happy to be here with my co-host Bala Afshar, one of the award-winning CIO, CMO influencers in the space, Huffington Post blogger, and of course, as you mentioned, with Salesforce. But more importantly, we have an awesome guest here today. So
we do. And Ray, I had to work really hard to shorten the bio for Stephen Mills. I don't know. Are you hearing an echo there?
Yes, we're hearing a little echo.
I don't know who that is. I just want to make sure the echo stops before we go on. Aubrey, can you help with the echo?
No problem. So let's go with the bio.
Okay, so Stephen Mills joined IBM in 1973 after graduating from Union College. In 1992, he ran IBM's Silicon Valley Software Lab, where he was responsible for development of database applications development products. In 93, Stephen was named General Manager of Software Solutions Division, and he played a key role of developing and creation of IBM's software group. In 2000, he was named Senior Vice President and Group Executive for IBM Software Group. In his role, he was responsible for development, marketing, sales for all of IBM's software products. In 2010, hardware was added to Stephen's responsibility, and this included manufacturing, marketing, and sales for hardware products as well, and semiconductor components. In total, Stephen had responsibility for 110,000 employees around the world and nearly 40 billion, that's a B, 40 billion of IBM's revenue. In 2015, he was named Executive Vice President for Software and Systems. Stephen retired from IBM after 42 years. In 2015, he's now director at Marshall & McLennan Companies since 1990. Welcome to our show, Stephen.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can. Okay, good.
So, hey, Steve, welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you. You know, share a little bit about your journey and career at IBM. What were the big shifts and trends? I mean, you've gone through the big shifts from computing, and just give a little bit of insight on the future as well while you're doing that.
Okay, simple question. Unfortunately, probably not a short answer, but let me try to, keep it net. Obviously, when you're around for as long as I've been, joining the industry in effect out of the university in 1973, you've seen a lot of shifts and changes, and these eras tend to blend together. And I think one of the lessons learned is that the old doesn't really go away. It often morphs. There's kind of a wave phenomenon of the wave of the next new thing washes over what's there before. It changes it, it modifies it. And if you can recognize those waves, you can see the way you want to change the things you have, as well as obviously take advantage of the new wave that's coming. And I think for startup companies that are simply on the new wave, they don't have to look back. That's not their world. They're looking ahead. For those of us that work in big companies that have been around for a while, these waves hit. And one of the biggest challenges is beyond just recognizing the wave, it's figuring out how does this change the thing that we've been doing? And if we can modify what we've been doing in a way that makes it more relevant to our customers going forward, well, then we can sustain it. And technologies are sustainable. They don't necessarily go away unless companies lose their whole reason for being. They kind of forget why the customers worked with them in the first place. They fail to recognize that they need to maintain a certain level of currency. So there's this interesting challenge of understanding how to change the old as well as take advantage of the new. And I think you see a lot of examples, and the tech industry is littered with companies that were household names going back, in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. People don't talk about them anymore. But in every case, they missed what was coming. They didn't understand that they needed to modify and change and adapt, take advantage of new things, so that franchise they created had some life to it. It gave them a little bit of breathing room and to explore and begin to work on those things that are new to the industry. And this was, one of the challenges that IBM faced as a company, in recognizing these things. And you can't resist the future, right? You got to. The wave's too big. You're either going to drown in the wave or you're going to get carried along by the wave. And so you can't push back on it. Instead, you got to figure out how to adapt to it. I certainly think you see that evident in the way IBM changed as a company. I think historically it had been viewed as a company that tended to be kind of stuck doing the things that it was doing, and was not necessarily an early mover in things that were new in the industry, things that were changing. And certainly it remains a big company that does not necessarily turn as fast as a small company does, but nonetheless is certainly a participant. Whether we talk about social, mobile, big data, artificial intelligence. IBM has a lot of initiatives, cloud and so on, that it is an important player in the industry.
That makes a lot of sense. We often joke that, mainframe is what? Cloud. Cloud is really mainframe computing, right? Mobile.
Well, the mainframe is just a computer.
Yes. Mobile is what? A VT100. I mean, we're looking at a dumb terminal, right? We think about Hadoop. What's Hadoop? Right? It's a name value pair.
Yeah.
We'll come back to 1970. And basically, if we want to see the future, we should probably read an IBM manual from 1970 and see what's going on. The only thing we're missing is we need something for token ring, right?
Well,
what's the future? The future token ring?
I think that we've seen IP protocols evolve to greater and greater sophistication. To where some of the ideas that were reflected in some of these other communication schemes, start to show up in token ring and Ethernet and IP-based protocols. So there's an adaptation and adoption sometimes of ideas that pre-existed. A lot of people don't realize that markup languages, the HTML, which we all take for granted, as an underlying technology around the World Wide Web. I mean, markup languages began in the 1960s.
Wow.
It's not a new idea. They've been around for a long time. All these, just about everything in computer science is built on ideas and principles and experimentation that had been done in decades earlier. But very often you didn't quite get to, the right answer. You got close, but you didn't quite make it. More importantly, typically the amount of compute power that was affordable just wasn't there to be able to really make your idea go. And so you put it on the shelf and computers get faster and cheaper and voila, now you're doing it.
Steve, let's talk about artificial intelligence, something that, technology companies have talked about maybe as early as 1990s or even earlier. What's different about artificial intelligence today and in terms of your view of the tech industry and the landscape?
Well, first of all, you can go into Wikipedia and find a timeline on AI that goes back decades and decades. And so there are a lot of AI structures and principles that we take advantage of today. On a personal level, I was involved with the creation of Prolog-based products in IBM back in the 1980s. And we did some interesting projects, but you couldn't afford the compute power to really create something that was really scalable. And so it got applied to very narrow, types of logistical scheduling and other types of problems that had a lot of variability. It made it hard to figure out the right answer through a simple rule set. So if you dial forward to where we are today, we wouldn't be talking about AI if we hadn't been talking about big data a few years ago.
Sure.
Kind of there was a big uptick in the middle part of the last decade, related to analytics and big data, and everybody was all abuzz. Hey, everyone's doing terabytes and on the way to petabytes, and all kinds of analytic solutions were beginning to emerge in the market. They weren't necessarily new ideas, but they were facilitated by the fact that you had incredible amount of cheap computing at your disposal. You could ingest and store a lot of data, and you could manipulate that data to a fair degree. And so that sort of gave rise then to looking at, well, let's start bringing in technologies that have been around for a while that dealt with reasoning and learning structures, ways in which you can begin to build out a knowledge base. The idea that there are objects or entities that have attributes, and those attributes relate to other entities that have attributes. And if I can keep building that knowledge base, I use the statistical and probability calculation capability of the computer, I can, with a fair amount of accuracy, get close to relating new things that I'm just ingesting or trying to understand to the things I already understand. And the computer can help me form those relationships and do something that my brain doesn't do very well, which is give me true statistical probability, true relative closeness.
Right.
Is this really related to this? Can I make a decision based upon all the knowledge that exists applied to this new problem? Can I do that without just simply depending upon my gut feel? And sometimes your gut feel is perfectly right, and sometimes you're just way off, right? Because the human brain does not do standard deviation, all that well. And so, we're now able to start to look at very complicated problems, some of which are more deterministic, have more of an empirical base to them. Others are more unstructured. And of course, people have some familiarity now with some of these ideas and technologies. IBM's been, very active around its Watson offering, which actually is not just an offering, but a whole collection of function that you combine and recombine depending upon the problem set that you're dealing with.
Sure.
You can, bring in language tools. You can bring in neural network structures. You can apply learning type mechanisms to it. Some problems require a lot of language parsing and language understanding, structure. The IBM team has been working on a system for the legal community for the collection of all the casework related to a particular domain. You have a lawsuit, you need to do all the research, you want to pull together all the cases in, you want to compare, the validity of different facts and elements, you want to create arguments, and the computer can create the arguments for you. And present back to you, here are all the cases that support, this outcome, the cases that support this outcome, begin to help guide you down the path of constructing an argument. So it's doing the job that maybe, half a dozen or more associates,
Sure.
Might be doing in data collection and assembly and formulating that initial argument for the more experienced litigator then to, then take that material and then, actually hone it down to what they're going to take into court. And so there are numerous examples of these things. Some of them are pretty simple, applying these types of technologies to things like call centers.
Right.
Typically fairly fixed domains. It's a kind of a 90-10 rule. Pretty soon the computer almost always gets it right. More fluid areas, legal profession. Areas that are obviously critical, such as healthcare. Where you want your physician to have access to all of the symptomatic information, all the drug research and outcomes information, to use all that to input to make them smarter relative to their diagnosis and treatment. Get it right the first time.
Absolutely.
Something we all love to see physicians do.
So profound impact in terms of future of work.
It changes every profession in some way. And in some cases, it's going to have, I think, a fairly profound effect upon the number of people you need to solve a particular problem. Now, this is not new news to all of us, have been involved with information technology and computing throughout our lives. But it's going to be that next step, that next wave that in effect washes over work and the nature of work in so many professions. And it'll change what the next generation of people coming into the workforce are going to need to be good at. And some of the things that you would pay money for, simple data collection and data curation, those won't have the same value they once did. And that shift and change is going to be pretty profound, I think, in the next decade. The next 5 years are going to be, a lot of the early adopter projects and, building out value, demonstrating value. These things don't happen literally overnight. But, we're certainly in this next decade, it's going to be, I think, pretty profound.
No, this is pretty wild. And hey, related to this, a lot of people often ask a question between what's AI versus machine learning versus deep learning. You know, what's the real outcome for customers? And then as a quick aside, I mean, I can see how Prolog and C++ are the backbone behind a lot of these AI things, be it the way that relationships and terms and atoms all fit together. I remember looking at that at Caltech over a summer in the 80s. I was like, wow, that was pretty powerful. So.
Yeah, you know, there's all these terms being thrown around, and I think it's creating a certain amount of confusion. You know, obviously, it is just a computer, right? And so you can get fixated on the word intelligence, or you can recognize that all this begins with the word artificial. You know, a computer does not work the way a human brain works. You know, though you can in effect simulate the way a human brain works, right? So you think about how all of us learn. We have 5 senses. We get this incredible input capability to learn things, right? And we have this extraordinary ability to associate. And we identify things that are familiar to us, that look like, smell like, taste like. You know, this is like something, and I categorize it, and I know where it fits. And you know, we all sort of view that as the way in which we learn. It's a representation of this idea of knowledge. You know, obviously the computer doesn't have any of that at its disposal. No. So human beings have got to initialize it, right? You've got to put the initial feed into the computer. You've got to give it structure. You know, you have to teach it what things are, what the attributes are, and how those attributes both relate to each other and relate to other things and other attributes. And as you begin to do that back and forth, you're essentially building up a truth base. Once that truth base is reasonably established, you can then effectively have the system learn by itself. It no longer needs, it'll still need humans to feed data into it. You still have to push stuff in. You know, it doesn't magically end up there. You got to push stuff in, but it will do the data curation. It'll do the categorization. You know, it'll do the structuring. You know, it'll add it to the existing ontologies. It'll even modify the ontologies that it already has to accommodate new facts and new things that relate to that particular topic. So, you know, some people, you know, tend to, I think, want to pigeonhole some of these things and say, well, you know, this is an AI product, but it doesn't do deep learning. Well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, it's really be an AI product. There's an element of learning that's going to have to be evident in the product. Otherwise, it's nothing more than humans programming rules, right? And rules-based systems in and of themselves do not constitute an AI system. So it's more of a spectrum than it is absolute. But there are certain fundamentals that I think constitute qualification for something to be AI. And it's that combination of being able to establish structure, ontology, relationship, and to extend those things essentially infinitely as new facts are being introduced. So it's an AI system. It's a deep learning system. It's a machine learning system. And then the domains that you apply the technology to, you know, will vary as a function of you know, the kinds of problem sets you're trying to solve and what the, you know, the input needs to be. When you look at the medical profession, you know, there's a big push to extend the kinds of things that Watson does, you know, into CAT scans, MRIs, being able to deal, you know, essentially with pixels at an extremely fine level and do the interpolation and extrapolation and relationships, because a radiologist, you know, may have to read, you know, 100 different, you know, radiological readings a day. They can make mistakes, they can miss things, you know, so how does the computer, you know, become an assist to that? And how does it help the expert find things that they might otherwise miss?
Absolutely, that's fantastic distinction between machine deep and just overall understanding of definition of AI. Thank you for that. Last week we had Scott McNeely, and we talked to him about being the co-founder of Sun Microsystems and leading a large organization. Of course, this week, Steve, someone who managed over 110,000 employees around the globe. I'm wondering if you have any advice for entrepreneurs, startup founders, or managers in large organizations in terms of mentoring, finding good mentors and being mentors themselves, and the importance of mentoring, develop responsibilities managing large organizations.
You know, this is obviously a topic that you could talk for hours on, you know,
Sure.
And I'm a very strong believer in, you know, apprenticeship, right? I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to pass on knowledge to other people. I think that, for all of us that, view our careers in hindsight, which I do at this point, you can look back on the people that, shared their time and energy, provided insight, provided information, advice and guidance. And different people, are looking for different things in terms of their repertoire of skills. Some, might not really need, mentoring in the sense of sort of absolute career guidance, but they need mentoring, when it comes to certain skill sets. I happen to believe that knowledge is paramount, that you are what you know. And in the tech industry, if you can't accept the fact that you must be a perpetual student, that your curiosity needs to be infinite, that there's nothing that should be off limits in terms of what you try to know. And clearly you're not going to be the expert in everything, but the deeper and the broader the knowledge is you have, the more effective you are in whatever assignment you have. And it likely will serve you well and distinguish you in terms of the way, your superiors believe you have the capability of doing more.
Yeah.
And I do believe that ability to do more is fundamentally grounded in knowledge. Now, of course, you get management experts that want to talk about, style and what kind of relationships do you form? Are you a good coach? Do you lead? How do you lead? Are you overly dictatorial? I mean, you get to stylistic issues. And, some people need more help on style than others. My view was always I'd rather calm you down than juice you up. I'd rather take a really smart person with tremendous energy and try to steer that energy, guide them on how to help their team come along with them, as opposed to somebody who is more laid back and just doesn't. I believe in lead from the front. In other words, so I always coached people on this idea of leading from the front. George Washington believed in it. That's why all the officers in his army had to wear a feather in their cap, because he expected them to be leading the troops from the front.
Wow.
As opposed to the British technique, which was to, send the riflemen out, but the officers would sit back and watch the battle. That attitude about getting in there and mixing it up and leading from the front, I think creates a much better culture. I think it matches up with the mindset that people have in tech, and certainly today's generation. Kind of expects that in terms of kind of open interaction that they believe they're looking for in the kinds of companies they go to work for.
Awesome. Hey, Steve, one quick question from Twitter. It looks like a yes or no question, but it's from Arsalan Khan on Twitter. He basically is asking, as tech becomes a commodity, do you think most tech organizations will just turn into professional service organizations?
I think to the customer realizing value from technology. One is the technology itself, and then the other side is the implementation of that technology. And obviously, we talk about software. Let's put hardware aside; it's a physical thing. But software is simply the codification, of an idea that you want to repeat again and again and again, right? And so, that idea is not fully realized by the client without either the customer understanding how to implement, or you coming in and effectively doing some professional services to let them realize the value of the technology. But you want to repeat it as many times as possible, so you got to get it into a product. You have to codify it.
Right.
You have to make it something that's accessible to the customer. And I do think that more and more people want to discover technology on their own before they bring somebody in. You look at kids today and the way they want to approach technology and technology decision making. They want to get on the web and discover the technology. Show me your product. What does it do? Let me play with it. I want the experience first, and then if I'm excited by what I see, then I'll talk to you. But I'm not necessarily going to talk to you just because you want to talk to me.
Okay, so definitely try before you buy, and it's not going to go away. There's still some
not going to go away.
some symbiotic relationship. Well, this has been really great. I mean, we're here with Steve Mills, one of the grandmasters of technology enterprise software, 40-year veteran of IBM. He has no Twitter handle to follow, so you're going to have to look hard to find him. But you can catch him on DisrupTV. Steve, we definitely want to have you back for more along the way, but thank you for being part of the DisrupTV alumni and being on the show today.
Great. It's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Happy Friday. We
That
could have
was
done this
awesome.
for hours.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really terrific. It's amazing that we have talked about artificial intelligence, future of work, and our next guest is someone who absolutely is leading from the front. I'm not sure if she wears a feather in her hat, but Sarah Franklin is the Senior Vice President of Dev Relations and General Manager of Trailhead at Salesforce. And we'll learn more about Trailhead for sure. Sarah is an innovative marketeer and a product owner. She specializes in bringing emerging technologies and trends to market and has a unique blend of technology expertise and business acumen, which I think is what has helped the success of Trailhead. She's passionate about marketing, making learning accessible and fun. And we'll talk about scaling learning and exactly what we need to have that unquenchable thirst and curiosity and being able to stay a lifelong student. Trailhead is helping with that. And you can follow Sarah on Twitter at SWBJoyce. SWB Joyce. Welcome to DisrupTV, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, my Twitter handle is not intuitive.
It's a great Twitter handle.
It's not really my name.
Well, hey, Sarah, welcome. I noticed you got some animals in the background. What do they symbolize? What are you talking about here?
So what we're talking about is Trailhead, and Trailhead is the fun way to learn Salesforce. And we'll talk more about this, but you know, everybody likes to have fun, and learning should be fun. So we have little stuffed animals. This is Astro, our mascot. Also represents diversity and inclusion and quality. And we have a bear and a goat and ranger hats. So with Trailhead, we have a forest and nature theme. So we have fun with it, and people love it. You can just, the hashtag on Twitter with Trailhead is just a bunch of people having fun.
All right, you're trying to give the Hadoop, you're trying to give the eco soup of Hadoop animal zoos a run for their money. I see that. Let's start with the question about this. You're in a job of doing some cool stuff. You can take your learning passion, bring it back to tech, bring it back to helping fill this employee skills gaps. But what are you seeing? How do companies address this employee skills gap? Because we've heard these different stats that there's all these jobs out on the market, yet however, there's all these people unemployed. It seems to be a huge divide.
It is a huge divide, and we are so passionate, myself personally and everybody here at Salesforce, about helping to bridge this skills gap. It's very interesting. We're at a time where student debt is at all-time highs, but student employment is at all-time lows. And that graph is not something that makes sense to me, especially as a mother of two who's looking to save for children to go to college. And as you mentioned, there's tons of jobs out there that are going unfilled. And the reason why is because people aren't able to learn those skills that lead to jobs. It's as simple as that. So as industry, we need to step up. And at Salesforce, we stepped up with Trailhead, and we said, let's make this accessible to everyone. Let's make it so everyone can learn skills that leads to jobs. And Salesforce happens to be a huge contributor in this, where over 1.9 million jobs are being created for people with Salesforce skills, whether it's in sales, digital marketing, building apps, data science, you were talking about intelligence. All of these emerging technologies are leading to these jobs and contributing $389 billion of GDP. Like it's amazing.
That's
and
amazing.
we're seeing this just grow. Just in the past year, the report from IDC, it was like about I think it was, don't quote me, but like 70% increase in the amount of jobs year over year, and it's just fantastic. And so we want to make this approachable. So it doesn't matter who you are, your race, your gender, your age, your accessibility, your orientation, no matter who you are, you can come learn and just have fun while you're doing it.
So self-paced online learning might be an answer to addressing some of this.
It definitely is. And what's also great is that we've gamified the experience. You saw Pokemon go viral in right? And all of a sudden I see people in my office walking around like finding toys, and I was like, what just happened? And The exact same thing is happening with learning. People are wanting to skill up. They want to get a ranger level. They want to get an explorer level. They want to get a hiker level. They want to get these different levels and be able to share their learning. And what's also really interesting is not just getting the skills, but getting these hands-on, like real mastery of a skill. So I'll take a small example, like building a mobile app. Like, people need a bunch of apps on their phone. And we not only show you how you can do it, we give you the environment to get in there and build it yourself. And then with Trailhead, we can, using our platform, investigate whether you did it correctly. So then when you earn a badge, which is like a little credential that you can put on your LinkedIn profile and you can share, and employers and recruiters can search by these credentials online, they can say, oh, I have a project for building a mobile app. Who's done this? And you have somebody that has that demonstrated experience, and they're now qualified for that job.
That's awesome. So community-led, online, competency-based education where you actually have your work validated, adapted to your speed, and gamified, so you can actually feel good about these bite-sized lessons that you learn to help you become a professional. And we had the CEO of HackBright Academy. It's academy focused on teaching coding to women only. And the CEO, Sharon Weinbar, who's a former venture capitalist, said that research points to 1 million unfulfilled software engineering positions by 2020. So there's definitely demand from business for talent that can be technical. And of course, with our platform, creating mobile apps seems like as easy as creating a PowerPoint slide, drag and drop, declarative. But we also have, developer skills so the spectrum is incredible. Can you share some of the stats with Trailhead? Because it's just ridiculously cool. And every customer, more importantly, every community member, customer, partner, our MVPs, when I have an opportunity to talk to them, they all bring up Trailhead. It's on top of everyone's mind, which is so cool.
Yeah, it really is. I tell you, this has been an amazing year. We just announced 1 million badges. Like, we just flew past it.
Wow.
And a year ago when we launched, we were like at 5,000. It's like, wow. we are
wow.
for the moon here in the velocity of learning that is happening. And what's fascinating is that, yes, anyone can do it. And we have a spectrum. So you might be thinking, oh, I don't have any coding background. That's fine. You can come and you can learn. But if you're a developer out there and you're a Java developer and you're thinking, I want to change it up, get some, some new skills, that's great. You can come and get as deep into the code as you want. We have the whole spectrum from no code to low code to code. And we have great business user skills as well. I mean, digital marketing, that skill didn't exist a few years ago. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is crazy. The innovation that's happening in technology is driving this need to have these jobs where people need to learn the skills and fill them. It's absolutely amazing, the statistics out there. And you need no longer than maybe 15, 20 minutes because it's bite-sized learning. So over 1 million badges that people have earned, and it is going to the moon. Some other interesting stats is that we have over 150 badges on Trailhead, so there's a lot of learning there. And we have something now called super badges. These are new, but think of it as like a next level up of a more advanced credential. So it's really, and my dream is that we get to the world of a full-on accredited degree that you can get on Trailhead. And you mentioned these jobs that are going unfulfilled. This is a point I think is very important. You mentioned women, people of different races, different cultures, people globally. There are people that are there to fill these jobs, right? They just need to be given the mechanism to learn. And what's great is that this is available for everyone. There's no discrimination in learning. There's no discrimination in just going online and having a passion to learn these skills. And age is one of those things too. So my own daughter learned how to build an app. She built an app called Puppy Force to manage a dog walking business. And what's great, yeah, what's great is that
Puppy Force.
Yes.
Puppy Force.
I love
Yeah,
that.
she has like her favorite dashboard is the animal BFFs. So like how many play dates like the dogs go on together. And what's great is that you're teaching children not just the technology, but I'll tell you, this is what's fascinating, is that people need digital literacy. People need to understand how to sell, how to service, how to work in this world of all of this innovation that's happening. And so learning some basic skills for how to, I'll take another example that we have something to teach children how to run a lemonade stand and build out technology to do that.
Wow.
Everything you need for how to sell, how to market, how to deliver customer service, even automate replenishment with like, if you order 20 cups of lemonade from a pitcher, the pitcher is going to run out and somebody's got to come in and fill that up. You know, it's amazing what we can do. And so we're not only doing it for today, but we are helping people with Trailhead for the future and helping these students learn these skills that are going to benefit everyone.
Wow. So what was the driving force behind Trailhead? It sounds like this is more than just, getting people up on Salesforce. This is life skills and work skills and a whole bunch of other areas that are going into this product.
So I have to say, hats off to Trailhead team. It is an assembly of an amazing, wonderful, best group of people ever that are just passionate about helping people learn. They're passionate about our community and passionate about making a difference in the world. And it is just an amazing team that I'm privileged to work with. And the genesis of Trailhead, it's a very interesting story, is that and I also run our developer and admin and startup relations here at Salesforce. And we have over 3 million developers. And we said, how do we skill them up on our current technologies? We just announced Einstein. How do we help all of them learn about Einstein and how to bring artificial intelligence into their apps, right, at scale? And so we noodled and we said, let's do something where we can help them learn, get hands-on in a bite-sized way, and we can give them a credential that they can be proud of at the end of the day. And that was the genesis of Trailhead. And we had no idea how viral this would be and how passionate everybody would be about it. It's just amazing.
It's crazy. You got 31 trails, 119 modules. I mean, that's crazy in terms of what's happening. So,
Ray, we're expecting you to get a few badges. I think you have you can get a super badge before Dreamforce, maybe. I know you can.
Oh, that's the challenge. That is the challenge.
That's the challenge.
I'm going to raise that challenge. Get some badges by Dreamforce. We even have a Get Ready for Dreamforce badge. And hats off to another wonderful woman that has been an inspiration to me. Her name is Mary Scotton, and she's helped me learn a lot about equality, diversity, and inclusion. And we have some great content around how you can learn about that cause and learn about how you can bring equality and inclusion into the workplace. So it's about technical skills and soft skills. We have badges on how to be a great manager, how to conduct an interview, and then also how to build mobile apps, how to do, whether it's hybrid, native, whether you're doing Apex, where you're doing, all kinds of stuff. It's all available.
Awesome.
So Sarah, at some point, customers may be interested in using our framework, which is highly scalable, gamified, structured by Trails, to deliver their own content, specific to their company needs in terms of skills and talent development. Do we see in the future us being able to extend our capabilities so customers can?
You're testing me here. You're wanting the good stuff. Yes, so I hear daily customers say, Sarah, that's amazing. How can we do that? How can we enable our sales team to do with this learning? How can we enable our employees with this learning? And it is something that we are definitely looking at here at Salesforce and on the Trailhead team, because we want to help everyone learn. Learning should not be something that's ever limited nor gated. Learning should be available to everyone. So we're passionate about the future for Trailhead and how we can help our customers also help their customers and their employees and partners learn too.
That's terrific. That's terrific.
Well, hey, real quick on your end, I just have one last question, and I want to talk about future of corporate employee training. So what's happening? What's hot? Is it AR? Is it VR? Is it AI? What else is enabling training?
You know, it's super fun. We actually have some VR where you put on the Oculus and you're completely immersive experience, and you're like dragging around objects and accounts and opportunities. And then AR is super hot. Like we have some fun stuff where you actually have a little Astro that you're going through your modules and you see a little Astro there, and all of that is great trends. And the bottom line is that people want to have fun when they're learning and they're engaging. They want that experience to be interesting and interactive. And so it's fascinating, the trends with VR, AR, and then also with intelligence and AI and machine learning and deep learning and predictive intelligence. So the future is very bright for learning, and I'm excited that at Team Trailhead we get to be a part of this.
Excellent. So Raccoon Astros hanging out with Einstein, and we don't know about it. What are we going to know about that?
So come to Dreamforce, and we're gonna have an immersive Trailhead experience. I encourage everyone to come, and if you can't attend in person, we'll be doing tons of like live streaming and all of that stuff, so you can see us. The other big thing is that we have our Trailblazer hoodies. So, so these are the coveted fashion of Dreamforce, and really everybody. What's so impressive is that not just I'm speaking a lot about the technology with Trailhead, but what's amazing to me is the people behind it. People like Cheryl Feldman, people like Selena Suarez, people like that are just saying, you know what, I don't have this background, but I'm not afraid to go and learn and make a difference in the world. And that is, I mentioned Cheryl Feldman. She went from a hairdresser to a technologist by teaching herself how to learn. And that's just the power there. When we talk about filling these jobs, filling these skills gaps, people can do it. They can totally do it. And we just want to give them the tools to be able to learn.
Sarah Franklin, thank you so much for leading in the front when it comes to educating the world and certainly the Salesforce ecosystem. We really appreciate it.
I couldn't do it without my team. I have an amazing team here, and they are the heart and soul of Trailhead.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
There you have it. Sarah
awesome.
Franklin. You can follow her at SWB Joyce, from chemical engineer to consultant to developer evangelist to now a leading educator in the world of training and learning in the corporate environment. Thanks a lot for being here, and please come back.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, great. Now it's the cleanup hitter, the person that comes in and just hits a grand slam at the end of our show. We're honored to have James Markarian, CTO of SnapLogic, as our guest. James is the former CTO of Informatica, where he spent 15 years leading the data integration technology and business as the company grew from a startup to over $1 billion in revenue company. So an amazing achievement. Since leaving Informatica in 2013, James has been an investor and an advisor to many startups in the space of data management space. James was an entrepreneur in residence at Coastal Ventures, focusing on integration and business intelligence. He started his career at Oracle in 1988, where he was a developer, manager, and member of the company-wide architecture board. Welcome to DisrupTV, James.
Thanks, Vala. Good to be here.
We got to keep shortening.
I was also a hairdresser turned technologist.
we got to figure out how to shorten these bios. Everyone's like so accomplished. This is pretty amazing.
It's funny, Ray, as I go through the process of really shortening the bios, because they have to be shortened, I kind of feel bad about myself. I'm like, I got to do more. so which makes it a privilege having you join us on DisrupTV. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing. A little bit about SnapLogic, please.
Yeah, sure. So unlike IBM and Salesforce, I think there's some education that's necessary out there. So SnapLogic is basically an integration vendor in this new category called iPaaS, which is basically like integration services in the cloud. We do operational integration, like things like connecting Salesforce to NetSuite for some business process, or data integration, which would be taking data from all these operational systems and moving it into something like Hadoop for analysis. been around for about 10 odd years. I joined just a few months ago as CTO. I know a little something about the space from my previous employment.
A little bit.
I created a lot of the modern concepts, and hoping to recreate some of the magic plus a few modern twists.
Well, hey, this is a space that's been around for a while, and I think one of the unique things that you guys have has been things called snaps. So let's start at the beginning. How does application and data integration work, and what does that mean, and how does that apply to data management versus what we did way back in your Informatica days to what you're doing now in SnapLogic?
Yeah, so I think things, it's, I know these things might be chunked up into bytes, but I was like reflecting on what Steve Mills was saying earlier, how, a lot of the concepts that we have now were, existed way back in the day. And I couldn't decide if I agreed or disagreed with what he was saying, because there's some similarity and then there's a lot of differences. So when you look at when the integration technologies first arose, even before Informatica, I'd say it was kind of like the prehistoric times of like integration. So you had a few mainframes, you had a few databases, you had the rise of open systems, you had a couple of ERP systems, and we all thought it was like pretty complicated. And it turns out that we kind of long for those days when it was like as simple as it was back then. So you have thousands of SaaS applications. Even the database market itself, between NoSQL databases, purpose-built analytic databases like Vertica and others. And then you have like all the Hadoop systems rise up, and you do the combinatorics and all the applications and all the analytic environments, and pretty soon you got a pretty big mess on your hands. And you have on the consumer side, you have lots of technologies that people have to learn in order to solve some business problem, because nobody really cares about just learning all these technologies. They actually care about solving some problem. And so our kind of goal in life is to get people as quickly as possible from understanding the business problem to actually solving it, and not having to worry about any of the mechanics of how they would go about doing that. So things like being cloud-based, or things like being document-centric, so JSON throughout. So you don't have to deploy anything. You don't have to kind of fight the data formats that you're dealing with. Everything's through a browser, and we just make it all go away. So you can go about solving the problem that your business is facing. Whether it's a consumer problem, a supply chain problem, doesn't matter. We're completely horizontal.
There was a Harvard Business Review survey of about 600 board level CMO, VP levels respondents, looking at advanced use of analytics in marketing and sales within the 600 organizations. And the research came back with only 15%, 1.5, of companies are leveraging advanced analytics. Based on your experience over the last, let's say, 10 years, do you see more companies evolving in terms of using predictive analytics, prescriptive, maybe AI technologies in marketing, sales, and other lines of business?
Yeah, so I think there's, first of all, I would probably admit to the fact that there's some self-selection. So the companies that I talk to tend to be the ones that actually are using this. So probably my sample is a little bit biased. That being said, I think when we think about like what's really new out there, like everybody talks about, I'll approach it a little bit differently. So everybody talks about big data, so lots of data being generated internally, lots of data being consumed from the outside. And generally you would sort of like maybe back into a definition of what big means by saying it's bigger than you can deal with in a traditional way. So
Excel sheets.
Yeah, that's right. Sit there and bang out rules, or like think about like what queries I want to generate. Like generally speaking, you would say, you probably can't do that on big data, because by the time you come up with anything, everybody will be dead that ever cared about that problem. So you need sort of a new approach, and that's where kind of the new analytics end up creeping in. So when you look at especially things like machine learning, using kind of non-deterministic methods for figuring out what's actually important in the data, that starts sounding like something that maybe is a little bit better at dealing with these very big, like arbitrarily complicated and interrelated data sets. And I think, right on the front line of that is marketing and sales, because if you're going to make that, the corollary to it is if you're going to make that investment, it's got to pay off. Like, we're not running science experiments. Right. So we need something that has like kind of a positive ROI. So prove we can get lift in our marketing campaigns, right. Prove that our sales process can be like even more efficient so we can raise quotas for our reps or whatever, the goal is, that would be my goal. And so if you can prove that, then we'll start looking at in the rest of the organization where sometimes the hard dollar returns aren't quite as easy to calculate as they are in marketing and sales. So, you might not think of these as groups necessarily like on the cutting edge of like analytics, but they are. And so we're totally seeing it. And I think, there's this like bigger discussion with some of the other things that, were being discussed earlier, who's going to be around in a few years. And, you would end up saying probably, the people that take advantage of these new techniques and can get to market faster are more efficient. If it's the older companies, then they're going to be the ones. If it's newer companies that don't have some of the inertia that maybe employ some of these techniques, then maybe they're the ones that are going to lead these new spaces. So I think it's a very interesting time, and I think analytics can really be the difference.
So hey, James, real quick, data lakes, all the rage. Everyone's like, I got a data lake. I put in my data here. Forget the data warehouse. What do we do, right? That's kind of where we're headed. I just want to ask you a really important question. What in the world, why are people considering data lakes as kind of the replacement for data warehouses? I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. And more importantly, can I frack a data lake?
All right. Well, we'll come to that last if we have time. I think I'm glad you know the answer to why everyone cares about data lakes, because I'm not quite sure that I necessarily know the answer to this. I think that there's a couple of things, and the way that I generally describe it is that data lakes, data in general is about the most frustrating thing you can ever deal with, because it seems like it should be trivially, simple and obvious about how and what to do with it. And then you get into the mechanics of it, and it ends up being very frustrating. Some of that's because of the semantics being very different from system to system. Sometimes even things like when I used to be in my old job and I would try to run reports on year-over-year product performance. And the bundling of the products changed, or the names changed a little bit, and then you try to run a report to do year-over-year analysis, and you don't quite get an apples-to-apples comparison because the data's changed a little bit. It's that's a little frustrating. It felt simple, and all of a sudden it's even I would sort of throw up my hands and say, hey, I need help sorting this all out. I think you couple the general frustration that people have with data. And I would say, actually, if you look at the BI space, it tends to be a very fatty market. So you would have not to pick on anybody, they're probably your prime guest for next week or something. So, but the mainframe era technology to the client server technology to the new visualization technology to something else that comes after it. And sure, there are some technology advancements that come along, but largely speaking, I think the fattiness is due to frustration with data. Now, you look at the data persistence side, high bills from the people that do it very well. So some of the traditional vendors, again, I don't want to get into who, but people look at what is the real value I'm getting out of my data, and what's the check that I'm writing every year to some of these vendors, and can I actually justify one with the other? So that's one question that people are asking. The other is you go back to the original vision of data warehouse. Even look at my old employer Oracle, the Oracle of Alexandria, the repository for everything, all knowledge in the world. We didn't really fulfill that at the data warehouse. The hope is that maybe with the data lake we can get back to that. The economics are a little bit better in some ways. The hardware and software is cheaper. The risk and the labor is a little bit higher. And then it enables some of the new analytics in a way that the traditional technologies didn't. So I think that there's hope. So I think you see a lot of hope behind the movement. Now, what the reality is a different question.
But so you're basically saying, look, this stuff is easier to use. It's cheaper. You don't have to be as anal about the data as you used to have to be, right? And now, and because people want this information like right away, this seems to be the answer is just dump all this stuff into one bucket. I mean, that's basically what it sounds like here.
Well, okay, I didn't necessarily say or imply easier to use, first of all, because I think that what a lot of customers are starting to choke on a little bit is like, hey, like look at a Hadoop installation.
Right.
You need to know like Zookeeper. You need to know Flume and Scoop, and first you had to learn like MapReduce, then you had to learn Pig and Hive.
Pig, you need Pig as well.
And now Spark and Taze and Storm and Kudu and like all these things, and you never know when that merry-go-round is actually going to stop, and you feel like, okay, I got to handle.
You get a full zoo. You get a full zoo of animals. How can that be bad?
You have a handle on everything that you need to know. Not to mention all the Apache projects. Like look at all the real-time stuff. Apex, Flink.
But James, this is like back to what we were saying. Like I said this in the past. The sequel to NoSQL is more SQL.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with Mike Stonebreaker on everything, but he has a great quip, for this, which is NoSQL means not SQL yet. And I actually think that that's kind of it, because
I mean we're recreating SQL back to what Steve Mills was saying, right? I mean, this old technology is coming full circle. We're back. I mean,
yeah. Okay. So let me qualify all that a little bit. I don't know if you go there, because I actually think that part of what's great about like now the I don't know, are we in the golden age of computing? I don't know. It's an expanding horizon. But like back in the day, there was like one type of database. This is not all the way back to the beginning, like hierarchical network databases, but take relational, which really dominated for decades. Yep. And it was like that was the only choice that you had. Now, do you want to buy it from IBM or Oracle or Microsoft? That was about like the level of selection that you had. Then all of a sudden, you have NoSQL databases, which persist application data super fast, but they don't query really well. Then you have things like Redshift or Vertica or even like parts of Hadoop that query very well. And the only reason why those two worlds can live together is you have this acceptance of integration technology, fortunately, that can get the data and kind of blit it over quickly from one place to the other. Because the data formats and the architectures really don't match between what excels at one and what excels at the other. And so fortunately, we have enough kind of, of a glut of hardware and software out there that we can sort of use horses for courses. And I think that, that makes it great for, people that are analyzing or persisting. It makes it great for integration vendors that kind of make it all work together.
That's a great question. James Markarian, thank you so much for being a guest on DisrupTV, and hopefully you'll come back. We really enjoyed your thought leadership. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much for having me, guys. Good seeing you, Ray.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And you can definitely follow James, follow the SnapLogic hashtag. And of course, he has no personal handle to promote, but we will track it down one day.
I'm pretty good at integration technology, but apparently terrible with Google. So you can, it's just at James Markarian.
No, I know.
Use that.
Please say hi to my buddy Gaurav. So take care.
Will do. All right, Bala, Ray, see ya.
Hey, it's Friday. It is DisrupTV, must see, as you know. This is wonderful. And guess what? Next week, we got a special guest host. My colleague, Alan Leposki, will be guest hosting. I will be on a plane from London to San Francisco. But next week's episode 34, Jennifer Palka, founder and executive director for Code for America, and Ron Miller back, our enterprise reporter at TechCrunch. And then we'll hear a little bit about what's happening with Alan Leposki's research on the future of work, AI, and what's happening next. So stay tuned for an action-packed episode. And then the week after that is Dreamforce week. So we may have something really special somewhere between Dreamforce and the White House. We might have something going. So we'll keep you posted and updated on that. Vala, I don't know. Any final words for a crazy week? Who do you think will buy I'm not going to say who. Might happen at 8 p.m. today. I'm not sure. Something is going down big. So I don't know. We'll leave that open.
Look forward to seeing you in person at Dreamforce. And Sarah Franklin and I are going to be checking how many badges you're going to have earned from now until then. So thanks, everyone, for watching episode 32 of DisrupTV. And our guests for Code for America next week and Roman are terrific. So please tune in next week. Follow us at DisrupTV hashtag and at DisrupTV show. Talk to you later. Thanks, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Bye-bye.
And here's curious. I'll find Einstein later. Later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ray.